You're alone, not because people rejected you, but because you rejected them. You walk through crowds and feel like a ghost. You see groups laughing and feel no desire to join them. You sit in silence while others fill every moment with noise, and society tells you this is a problem. They say you're isolated, antisocial, missing out on life, but they're wrong, because your solitude isn't a symptom of weakness. It's a byproduct of strength. Strength they don't possess, strength they don't understand, strength that makes you untouchable. Machiavelli wrote that the lion who walks alone is more feared than the pack of wolves. Not because he's stronger than all of them combined, but because his isolation signals that he needs no one, and those who need no one cannot be controlled. By the end of this video, you will understand the 8 traits that cause your isolation. Not traits to fix, traits that make you dangerous, traits that make you immune to manipulation, traits that make you untouchable in a world designed to keep people dependent and controllable. If you're ready to see your solitude as the weapon it is, keep watching. If you want to keep apologizing for being different, close this now. Let's begin. Before we break down the 8 traits, understand something critical. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. Lonely people are alone because they can't connect. They want connection but can't achieve it. They're isolated by their inadequacy. But you're different. You're alone because you choose to be. Because most people don't meet your standards. Because connection requires compatibility, and you're not compatible with mediocrity. This is not arrogance. This is self-preservation, and the 8 traits we're about to discuss are the reasons why. Trait 1. You see through social performance instantly. Most people spend their entire lives performing interest they don't feel, performing opinions they don't hold, performing emotions they don't have, but you see through it immediately. Within 3 minutes of conversation, you know, this person is lying. Not about facts, about who they are. They're wearing a mask, playing a role, pretending to be something they're not, and it repels you. Not because you judge them for it, but because you can't engage with performance. You need authenticity, real thoughts, real emotions, real human connection. But most people can't offer that because they don't even know who they are beneath the mask. So you walk away, not rudely, just quietly. You exit conversations that feel fake. You avoid people who perform constantly. You stay alone rather than participate in theater. Research from Harvard on social perception shows that individuals with high emotional intelligence detect deception 70% faster than average. Your isolation is caused by your perception. You see too much, too clearly, too quickly, and once you see the performance, you can't unsee it. Machiavelli warned that the wise prince sees through flattery and falsehood. You're not a prince, but you see like one, and what you see keeps you alone. This trait makes you untouchable because manipulators rely on performance. They rely on you believing their mask, but you don't. You see the person behind the mask immediately, so they can't manipulate you. They can't deceive you. They can't control you. You're immune. Trait 2. You refuse to lower your standards for companionship. Most people are so afraid of being alone that they'll tolerate anything. Toxic friends, shallow relationships, surface-level connections. They accept mediocrity because they need the noise. They need to feel like they belong somewhere, even if that somewhere is filled with people who don't understand them. But you operate differently. You have standards, high standards, and you refuse to compromise them just to avoid solitude. You'd rather be alone than surrounded by people who drain you. You'd rather have silence than meaningless conversation. You'd rather have 0 friends than 5 fake ones. This is not antisocial behavior. This is self-respect. You understand something most people never learn. Bad company is worse than no company. Toxic relationships are more damaging than isolation. And your time and energy are finite resources, so you protect them ruthlessly. Research on relationship quality shows that individuals with fewer but deeper friendships report higher life satisfaction than those with many shallow connections. Your solitude is strategic resource management. You're not wasting energy on people who don't deserve it. You're conserving it for people who do. And if those people never appear, so be it. Machiavelli said that it is better to be alone with strength than accompanied by weakness. You chose strength, and strength requires solitude. This trait makes you untouchable because people can't use your need for companionship against you. They can't threaten you with isolation because you prefer it to fake connection. They can't manipulate you with inclusion because you don't need to belong. You're psychologically independent, and independence is invincibility. Trait 3. You process reality faster than you can explain it. Here's why conversation exhausts you. Your brain processes information at a speed most people can't match. You see patterns instantly. You make connections immediately. You reach conclusions while others are still processing the question. But when you try to explain your thinking, you hit a wall. Because to explain, you have to slow down. You have to retrace steps your brain took in milliseconds. You have to articulate connections that feel obvious to you, but require elaborate explanation for others, and that process is exhausting. So you stop explaining, you give short answers, you stay quiet, you withdraw from conversations, not because you have nothing to say, but because explaining feels like translating a language nobody else speaks. Research on cognitive processing speed shows that individuals in the top 10% of intelligence often struggle with social integration because their processing speed creates a communication gap. You're speaking at 100 miles per hour, they're listening at 30. By the time you slow down enough for them to understand, you've lost interest in the conversation. So you stay silent, and silence creates distance, and distance creates solitude. Machiavelli understood that the wise leader often appears quiet, not because he lacks wisdom, but because explaining wisdom to fools is a waste of time. You're not calling people fools, but you've learned that most conversations aren't worth the energy. This trait makes you untouchable because people can't keep up with you intellectually. They can't argue with you. They can't debate you. They can't manipulate your reasoning, because by the time they form a counter-argument, you've already seen 6 moves ahead. You're untouchable because you're unreachable. Cognitively, trait 4, you've been betrayed and you never forgot. Your isolation isn't just preference, it's protection, because you've trusted before. You've let people in. You've been vulnerable, and they used it against you. They betrayed your trust. They shared your secrets. They exploited your weaknesses. And that lesson burned itself into your psyche. So now you operate differently. You don't trust easily. You don't open up quickly. You don't let people close. Because closeness creates vulnerability, and vulnerability creates opportunity for betrayal. So you keep everyone at arm's length, not out of fear, out of wisdom. You learned that most people will betray you if the price is right. Most people will use your secrets if it benefits them. Most people are loyal until loyalty becomes inconvenient, so you stopped giving them the ammunition. Research on trust and betrayal shows that individuals who've experienced significant betrayal develop heightened threat detection. They're not paranoid, they're calibrated. They see warning signs others miss. They detect disloyalty before it manifests. They protect themselves before they need to. Machiavelli wrote that a wise prince trusts no one completely, because complete trust creates complete vulnerability. You learn this through pain, and pain is the best teacher. This trait makes you untouchable because betrayal requires access, and you don't give access. People can't use your secrets against you because they don't know them. They can't exploit your weaknesses because you don't reveal them. They can't betray your trust because you don't offer it. You're a fortress, and fortresses don't fall. Trait 5. You're building something they can't see. Here's what others don't understand. You're not alone because you're doing nothing. You're alone because you're doing everything. While they're socializing, you're working. While they're networking, you're learning. While they're performing on social media, you're building in silence. You have a vision, a goal, a mission, and that mission requires solitude, because creation requires solitude, because creation requires isolation, because focus requires silence, because building something real requires withdrawing from the noise. So you disappear, not permanently, strategically. You're in a ghost phase, where you're invisible to the world, while you construct something undeniable. And people don't understand. They think you're lost. They think you're struggling. They think you're missing out, but you're not missing out. You're leveling up. And leveling up requires leaving the level you were on. Research on high achievers shows that periods of social withdrawal correlate with periods of intense productivity and breakthrough achievement. Solitude is not isolation from life. It's concentration on life's most important work. Machiavelli advised that the prince must sometimes withdraw to consolidating power. You're consolidating, and when you emerge, you'll be untouchable. This trait makes you untouchable because you're not wasting time on activities that don't compound. You're not seeking validation that distracts from creation. You're not performing progress for an audience. You're actually making progress, and when you finally reveal what you've built, it will be undeniable. They'll ask how you did it, and you'll smile because the answer is simple. While they were talking, you were building. Trait 6. You see people's potential to disappoint you before they do. This is the trait that isolates you most. Your pattern recognition is so advanced that you can predict how relationships will fail before they begin. You meet someone. Within a few interactions, you see it. The red flags, the incompatibilities, the inevitable disappointments. You know how this ends. They'll let you down in 6 months. They'll betray you when it's convenient. They'll disappoint you when you need them most. You don't know the specifics, but you know the pattern. And the pattern is always the same, so you don't invest. You stay distant. You keep them in the acquaintance zone because investing in a relationship you know will fail is irrational, and you're nothing if not rational. This makes you seem cold, unfeeling, closed off, but you're not. You're just tired of being right about people. Tired of seeing the betrayal coming and being unable to stop it. Tired of hoping this time will be different. So you stopped hoping. You accepted the pattern, and you chose solitude over inevitable disappointment. Research on attachment theory shows that individuals with avoidant attachment often have high predictive accuracy for relationship failure. They're not pessimistic, they're experienced. Machiavelli said that the wise man prepares for betrayal before it occurs. You don't just prepare for it. You see it coming, and you exit before it happens. This trait makes you untouchable because you can't be disappointed. You already know how people will fail you, so when they do, it doesn't wound you. It just confirms what you already knew. You're emotionally armored, not because you're heartless, but because you're realistic. Trait 7. You've outgrown the tribe. There was a time when you fit somewhere, when you had a group, when you belonged, but then you grew, you learned, you evolved, and the group didn't. They stayed the same conversations, same complaints, same limited thinking, and you realized you don't belong there anymore. Not because you're better, because you're different. You've outgrown the tribe, and once you outgrow the tribe, you can't go back. You can't pretend to care about things that don't matter. You can't fake interest in conversations that bore you. You can't participate in activities that feel meaningless. So you leave, and you don't find a new tribe, because most tribes operate at a level beneath where you are now. So you walk alone, not sadly, peacefully. Research on adult development shows that individuals who experience accelerated psychological growth often experience social isolation because they evolve faster than their environment. Machiavelli wrote that the prince who rises from nothing often finds himself alone at the top. You're rising, and the higher you go, the fewer people you'll find. This trait makes you untouchable because tribal pressure doesn't affect you. You don't need group validation. You don't fear social exclusion. You don't conform to maintain acceptance because you're not seeking acceptance. You've accepted yourself, and self-acceptance is freedom. Trait 8. You understand that solitude is power. Here's the final trait. Most people avoid solitude because it forces them to face themselves, to sit with their thoughts, to confront their fears, to acknowledge their inadequacies. And that's terrifying. So they fill every moment with noise, music, television, social media, conversation, anything to avoid being alone with themselves. But you're different. You've learned that solitude is not something to fear. It's something to weaponize. In solitude, you think clearly. You plan strategically. You see reality without social distortion. You make decisions without external pressure. You become yourself without performing for others. Solitude is your laboratory, where you experiment, where you create, where you become, and you've learned to crave it, not because you hate people, but because you love clarity, and clarity only comes in silence. Research on creativity shows that breakthrough insights occur most frequently during periods of solitude, because distraction prevents depth, and depth requires withdrawal. Machiavelli spent years in exile, alone, writing, thinking, creating the work that would define political philosophy for centuries. He didn't do that at parties. He did it in solitude. You understand this instinctively. Your greatest work won't come from networking. It will come from the hours you spend alone. This trait makes you untouchable because you've converted weakness into strength. What others fear, you embrace. What others avoid, you seek. What others see as punishment, you see as privilege. You're untouchable because you need nothing from anyone. No validation, no companionship, no approval. You're complete alone, and completion is invincibility. Now let's be very clear about something. These 8 traits don't make you better than others. They make you different, and different means incompatible with most people. That's not a judgment, that's reality. You can't force compatibility. You can't lower your standards enough to fit in. You can't suppress these traits to make others comfortable. So you have 2 choices: apologize for who you are, or weaponize it. Most people choose the first. They try to be more social, more available, more normal, and they torture themselves doing it. But you're going to choose the second. You're going to stop apologizing. You're going to embrace your solitude. You're going to recognize these 8 traits as strengths, not flaws, because they are. Every trait that isolates you also protects you. You see through deception others fall for. You maintain standards, others compromise. You think faster than others can manipulate. You learn from betrayal, others repeat. You build while others perform. You predict patterns, others miss. You outgrow limitations, others accept. You weaponize solitude, others fear. You're not broken, you're untouchable. And untouchable people don't need crowds. They don't need validation. They don't need anything except themselves. So here's what you do. Stop trying to be less alone. Start being more intentional about your solitude. Use it to build. Use it to think. Use it to become. And stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand. They'll call you antisocial. Let them. They'll say you're missing out. Let them. They'll tell you to be more open. Ignore them, because you know something they don't. The lion walks alone, and the lion doesn't explain himself to sheep. If this gave you permission to stop apologizing, good. That's the point. Subscribe to this channel if you want more validation for being different, but click join if you want the blueprint for weaponizing your solitude. Most people will watch this and still try to fit in, but you're different. Now go, embrace your isolation, weaponize your traits, and become so untouchable that the world has no choice but to come to you on your terms, in your time, if they're worthy. That's power.